It happened in a South Delhi mansion where the chandeliers were imported from Italy, the rugs were older than independence, and silence carried more value than honesty. A woman was killed upstairs, and the room below responded the way only India's elite know how to respond, with composure. The music didn't stop. A sitar playlist continued looping softly through hidden speakers, the tempo unchanged. Servers glided through the room with champagne flutes held at precise angles, faces neutral, movements trained not to acknowledge disruption. Someone murmured that my mother had fallen from the terrace. Someone else said marble gets slippery after midnight. A third person sighed and said, "How unfortunate," in the same tone one uses when a course is delayed. I stood beside my fiancé Raghav Mehra, while men who controlled ports, banks, media houses, and ministries exchanged brief, efficient looks. No one asked how she fell. No one asked why she was alone. Everyone already understood what had happened, even if no one planned to say it out loud. High society doesn't believe in accidents, it believes in consequences. My mother, Ananya Malhotra, was never meant for this world. She married into it believing intelligence could shield her and usefulness could buy safety. She thought if she made herself indispensable, she would be protected. She was an economist, sharp and methodical, with a habit of asking questions that made rooms uncomfortable. She believed systems could be corrected from within. She believed corruption collapsed under exposure. She didn't understand that this world doesn't collapse under truth. It absorbs threats and neutralizes them quietly. I was 26 that night, wearing a lehenga, chosen by a stylist who spoke to my father, not to me. Guests congratulated me on my engagement like it was a promotion I'd earned. I smiled back, unaware that my life had already split into a before and an after. An hour before her death, I saw my mother arguing with my uncle Arvane near the bar. Her posture was rigid, defiant, but her voice was controlled. Arvane's tone was calm, indulgent, almost affectionate, the way men speak when they're confident they can't lose. "This isn't tax planning," she said quietly. "This is criminal." Arvane smiled. "You're being emotional," he replied. "And emotional people don't last long here." Raghav leaned toward me then, his voice smooth, observant, almost fond. "Your mother still thinks truth matters more than timing," he said. I laughed, because I didn't yet understand what that meant. That laugh is something I still replay when I can't sleep. When they found her body, there was no scream, no chaos, just a pause, a collective recalibration of the room. Someone said the police would be informed. Someone else said the family would handle it internally. The police arrived late and apologetic. The terrace cameras were under maintenance. Witnesses remembered nothing clearly. The toxicology report took weeks. The conclusion accidental fall arrived quickly, neatly packaged, and unquestioned. Grief, I learned, is a performance in elite circles. Condolence notes arrived on thick, expensive paper. Women wore muted silks. Men praised my strength without ever meeting my eyes. When I asked my father what my mother had been working on, he snapped for the first time in my life. "Drop it," he said sharply. "This world eats people who don't know when to stop." So I stopped asking questions out loud. Instead, I watched. I stayed engaged to Raghav, which surprised everyone. They mistook my silence for acceptance, my stillness for submission. In reality, I was mapping the terrain, learning which conversations mattered and which were merely decorative. Raghav noticed the change almost immediately. "You're quieter," he said one night over whiskey, older than both of us, but sharper. "I'm learning," I replied. He smiled like a professor approving a promising student. I began recording everything. Casual jokes about offshore trusts, hypotheticals about regulatory capture, dinner conversations that sounded harmless until written down. I didn't confront anyone. I archived. High society survives on the assumption that privacy equals loyalty. I let them keep that illusion. My grandmother was the first to confirm what I already knew. She was 90, wheelchair-bound, and treated like an heirloom. During a family lunch, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "Your mother didn't fall." "I know," I said quietly. Her eyes sharpened with sudden clarity. "Men here think they're playing chess," she murmured. "They forget the board belongs to whoever waits longest." A year later, Raghav and I married. The wedding went viral for its restraint and expense. Commentators called it old money elegance. Influencers called it timeless. Behind closed doors, it was a merger. Our combined access was immense. We were invited into rooms where policy was shaped before it became law, where markets were nudged, not regulated. I listened more than I spoke, and people began to underestimate me. Raghav respected that. "You don't want power," he told me once. "You want comprehension." I thought of my mother's erased files and said nothing. The real shift came at a charity auction. I overheard Arvind joking about a pharmaceutical trial that would never see an Indian courtroom. The numbers he cited matched a spreadsheet I'd recovered from my mother's wiped laptop months earlier. That's when I understood something crucial. She hadn't been threatening anyone. She had been preparing to leave. Quietly. With leverage. That was unforgivable. I could have exposed them. I had enough to spark investigations, crash stocks, dominate headlines. But exposure is crude. High society doesn't fear scandal. It fears instability. So I whispered instead. To journalists, I framed concerns as curiosities. To investors, as risk calculations. To politicians, as legacy questions. I never accused. I suggested. Paranoia did the rest. At the same time, I moved assets quietly. Redirected trusts. Triggered audits in jurisdictions that ripple outward. I used the system exactly as it was designed to be used, just not by someone like me. The collapse was slow and elegant. Deals stalled. Partners hesitated. Allies withdrew without explanation. No one knew who to blame. They only knew trust was evaporating. Raghav confronted me one night, his voice careful. "What are you doing?" "Optimizing," I replied. He studied me for a long moment. "You're dismantling them." "That depends," I said. "Were you in the room when my mother died?" After a long silence, he said, "No." But I knew why. That honesty saved him. He chose distance over loyalty. In this world, that counts as morality. My uncle's empire shrank quietly. My father retired for health reasons. Men who once dominated rooms began to be excluded from them. One evening, a man who had smiled the night my mother died leaned toward me at dinner. "You've changed the rules," he said softly. I smiled back. "No, I learned them. There were no arrests, no public reckoning, just irrelevance. In high society, that is the closest thing to death." Eventually, Raghav and I dissolved our marriage, amicably and privately. The alliance had served its purpose. We parted with respect and mutual understanding. For the first time, I controlled my own assets, my own narrative, my own exits. My mother never had that chance. Sometimes I imagine her standing beside me, asking if it was worth it. I don't answer aloud, because the truth is simple. This world never rewards bravery. It rewards precision. My mother tried to win with truth. I won with timing. I didn't burn the system down. I let it correct itself. Now, when I walk into those same drawing rooms, conversations shift slightly. Smiles tighten. People listen when I speak. They know I understand the rules, and they know I'm willing to wait. That is resolution in this world.